Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of our RaceKraft V8 Veterans. The Veterans Vindaloo has not been walked out in a good old while, and it's interesting to note because, well, the Gen 3 has certainly been a spicier car, and if anything, that makes me want to say Veterans Vindaloo a whole bunch more. But here we are at round number 7, the Bomb Hole 200. In England, and it's a grand old racetrack here, David Haynes. This place built into an old Air Force base, but she's a very beautiful, wondrous racetrack to go driving at.
Yep, in Norfolk, England, so we're about to zoom in on it. On the map, it's that pointy bit that points towards Denmark down there, not all too far from London. I think they still consider themselves to be in the south of England, of which some people have very, very strong opinions about where that particular line is. Like many, many UK circuits, once was an airfield, as is quite visible from that back straight, the Bentley Straight, and also the access road to the north there. It's been modified a little bit over the last couple of years. Originally, it was very just long rectangular. They've added 50% more Snetterton for free in the infield section there through corners 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You keep a lot of what's made this place classic, though, which is high speed down the Bentley Straight underneath the bridge into a twisted braking zone for turn 10, carrying as much speed as you possibly can around the sweeping corners of 11 and 12 into a potential overtaking opportunity, but a potential off-track opportunity at the final corner, and a rather tight, slow, narrow pit lane to go with it all.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's an interesting old circuit. I love Bomb Hole, just the dip, and it's just an interesting little accentuation that happens to this racetrack as well, because it's, you know, otherwise a bone flat racetrack realistically, and it just adds just enough to just add a little something extra. I'm going to show across to tonight's race standings and what it all looks like, because we now get to add in our one drop round. So this is the race results after round 6 without the drop round being added, and then we'll see the standings shake up a little bit when we do add the drop round in just a few moments. Jordan Ross has been Mr. Consistent. He's effectively done the Scott Gamble so far this season. First season in Vets, straight to the pointy end of town, and he's doing a very, very consistent job of that. But who is going to be chasing him? Well, Michael Whiting's managed to put a load of points on the board, and then the chasing pack, Dan Hall, Troy Stone Street, David Nash, all up into some of their best championship standings. Chris Burridge a little higher up than he would normally be. Ken Latta further down. Gary Buckland has just been on really, really well done for the 60+ year olds, enjoying a strong enough form on Monday nights in those sessions as well. And Matt van der Kraan, after his win last week, climbs a bunch of spots, and Mark Poynton climbs his way inside the top 10 as well. Well, let's have a look at what they look like with the drop rounds. What changes in and amongst the standings? What are the key elements to this one? You add one of the 2 provisional drop rounds, and, well, not much changes at the top for Jordan Ross. But Ken Latta all of a sudden jumps a long way up. He's had a couple of off rounds realistically. Matt van der Kraan a lot further towards the top. And again, it's these guys that have had maybe one bad race that's tend in these sorts of standings to pop all the way to the top, Dave.
Yeah, if you've had a bunch of good results but missed 1 or 2 rounds, that's where a drop round is really going to make you look top, because then it's only counting your 5 best instead of your 6th against maybe some people who've shown up more often. So it's good news for Ken Latta, Matt van der Kraan, Wayne Walker, etc. But last round was good news for Matt van der Kraan. He's looking hot across both.
The best part is I've chatted to quite a few people as a result of that, and everyone is thoroughly enjoying the humour of the situation, but they're also celebrating Matt van der Kraan's result. So he's popular figure within the league, and it was good to finally see that up there get the result that he's been certainly waiting for. Although, Dave, why don't you take us through a little bit of the race strategy here tonight? 200 kilometres is the race duration. What are we looking at in terms of fuel tank size?
We're looking at a 70% refill capacity, starting with just the 50 litres as well, across a 200-kilometre race distance with 2 compulsory pit stops. So you've got to complete 32 laps to be classified if you have some dramas, but you're still looking to bag those points. compulsory pit stop window opens at the end of lap 2, depending on safety car, etc., etc. And with that 70% tank size, the critical lap for the second stop gets pushed just a little bit deeper into the race, makes it more difficult to completely front load it. And so that is what we're looking at as far as the restrictions, the way the race and the cars are set up. What it means for the teams and drivers is this is the kind of options they've got available to them.
Yep, 70% fuel tank restriction means that this is what your stops can look like. What's the furthest you can go in terms of fuel? The late stop strategy sees you get all the way to the end of lap 13. If you're looking for somewhere relatively even, maybe a fraction worth of an undercut, looking at somewhere around that lap number 12 marker. And oh boy, we got this one wrong last week, ladies and gentlemen. We're all aware of that one. I did get quite a few messages saying, hey guys, the tank size wasn't 100% last week. Thank you very much. We did actually realize that. We fixed that one up. We've adjusted all of the predictions moving forward. So I do actually want to say thank you to all the fans that actually care about the race data, because that's very important to pass on. But yes, we have updated our processes looking at all that sort of stuff early on. Can stop at the end of lap number 2. That will allow you to get home from the earliest of lap number 19. It's the critical lap numbers right there. If you can run a little bit lighter on the fuel, perhaps add an extra lap there as well. The lap times actually do fall off. Tires are a very, very big thing here. You're going to be using the lines. I was witnessing some practice sessions and some racing over on Tuesday night, and the lines between everyone, normally when you've got a bunch of drivers who are very, very similar paced, everyone's running about the same line. You're not going to see that tonight, David. It's going to be a little bit of a weird race in that aspect, because you're actually going to see guys that are running a little bit narrower here, trying to square a corner exit off and adjusting as the whole night goes along. So I'm actually expecting this one to be a little bit more of a weird one, just in how the actual racecraft and everything looks. But yeah, those are the big ones. Latest you can possibly stop, realistically, barring a safety car, somewhere around lap number 32 will get you 2 full tanks and all the way down to the end. You can probably stretch that out another couple of laps there if you need to. But I would say one of the critical factors that we're going to see tonight is, look, it's difficult to get an overtake on that. That does bother the temperatures. I would say our safety car percentage is probably a little bit higher than normal, and we have seen a few of them this season.
Yeah, we've seen them a couple of times. So you never rule it out when you're thinking about the strategy, because otherwise, for the drivers up front and for most of everyone, you really do just run the fuel out on that first stint, looking at something like the yellow line. But we've seen a few drivers, Ken Latta, for example, really benefit from getting an early stop in early when there's a high chance of a safety car. We remain to wait and see about that one.
I think the biggest thing is that it's risky to run long. Is pretty much the drivers are, what they're looking for is a hole to open up in traffic for them to pit into. But if once you're very, very close to that pit window to make it home, you don't want to run all the way out to the pit window to make it home on a 2 compulsory stop strategy. That's the big key. Right. Driver of the day from last week was not a name that we've spoken a lot about thus far this season, and that's why we enjoy giving out this award to somebody who's a little bit newer, a little bit fresher to it, and that's what we enjoy about it. It's all about celebrating drivers up and down the field, and sometimes some really, really standout performances. For Luke Allman, last week he ran exceptionally well to drive his way inside of the top 10, made a ton of overtakes, and that's why he got driver of the day. A lot of overtakes at Okayama on a night where strategy was very, very important.
Yeah, indeed. We try to sort of, show some love to someone inside of the top 10 that's really sort of outperformed expectations, exceeded themselves, outdone themselves on where they might normally fall, and maybe just done something different and brave and clever.
Yeah, so everyone is going to be firing out and doing some starting practice as well and getting themselves out there. I want to say an apology to Tim Nicol. Apparently, what we did do last week was give him the commentator's curse. He was all up in arms about how we definitely commentated cursed him. He was having a good old laugh about that one. Sometimes you crawl all over a curb. He lost it, and he was in a little bit of a flap, unfortunately, for Tim. Hoping for a little bit of a better finish here tonight. But yeah, one more. Just that celebration of the 35 machine of Luke Allman and his drive last week. Jordan Ross is going to nab himself another pole position as well. And by the way, we need to jump across and have a quick look at the zoom wall. The critical reason for having a look at the zoom wall is there's a bonus point on offer. And that's why we want to highlight all the drivers that are actually on the zoom wall, because it helps the league admins with grabbing a snapshot of who's actually participated at this point in time. Tim Nicol joins us once again. Hopefully we won't curse you tonight, Tim. Apologies for that last week. John Gallen, Jeff Thomas, Dan Hall, Travis Hunt, Scotty Gamble's up and out of the seat at the moment, taking a little bit of a break. Dave Kirby rejoins us. Last week had internet outages in far northern Queensland, wasn't able to join us, unfortunately, as he was trying to survive the buckets and buckets and buckets of rain that were being dumped down in his area. Greg Sharp, Ken Latta, Michael Stewart, and Christian Smart going to round out the Zoom wall. So most of the regulars back once again. Good to see them. Is Snetterton... given Michael Stewart's camera positioning, I'm going to say Snetterton's probably not up on that map. Also, it's
only a map of it, Michael. It says specifically on his piece of art that it's only the world's greatest racetrack.
I agree with that. It's not.
It's a 50-50 if Snetterton's going to be there. I put to you, it's a 100% chance Snetterton 200 would be there. Snetterton 300. Probably not. Hopefully.
Yeah. By the way, David Haynes has gone digging through the archives and he's gone to have a look at maps of the old airfields, which have been good. I've had access to them in Discord. You also got the finger painting out. You know, the one thing I've always wanted to get worked out about this sort of stuff is, do you know how much fun I would have with a teleprompter?
You mean a telestrator?
Telestrator. That's the one. Yes.
It's as much fun as a word to say as it is, a thing to have.
Jay Kennedy and I were tinkering around with a couple bits and pieces to try and get it to work at one point, and it was a lot. It's the amount of work that goes into making that work for a place whereby we're not in the same room. If we're in the same room as where all the audio and technical equipment's going out, completely different story, because you just draw over the top of it. It's nice and easy. It's nearly just a pad that you plug in and draw over the top of, so it's nice and easy. But yeah, I would love that. I would love to be drawing circles around little highlighted bits. The amount of times I would circle little bits and pieces on a track map, Dave.
You certainly wouldn't draw any mustaches on this page.
You absolutely would.
Like a real estate agent's profile picture on the side of a bus stop. No one ever pulls out a Sharpie on one of those.
Do you think Travis Hunt, we could draw him some hair back on top? Do him a solid?
I was going to be so nice to him on account of what I said the other days, and now we it's your turn to be the bad guy. We'll do that. We'll do that. I'm saying he looks super focused, really settled this week.
And our producer is sitting in the background trying to save us madly from digging ourselves into a deeper hole. So we're going to jump across and get into our grid information for here tonight. If there's anything that you guys would like to draw on top of one of our drivers, let us know out in the YouTube chat. I'd love getting involved with our fans. Pole position, going to go the way of Jordan Ross once again for round number 7 of season 22. Matt van der Kraan, after last week's win, lines up on the front row. See if he can convert that one. 10th and a half further back from our pole position. Round number 2, Wayne Walker has again found a whole bunch of time to find himself towards the pointy end of the grid. Scott Gamble will line up to his outside. Jeff Thomas and Troy Stonestreet. These are the guys that are going to be off of row number 3, 0.5 of a second off of our pole time. There's a little bit of a gap at the top end of the field. Again, Jordan Ross has lifted the margin. Darren Lobb is going to start off of row number 4 as he returns to the series. Good to see him back in action. Finally got some time together too. The last time out didn't really drive all that well in that new Monster Energy machine. And Luke Allman starting off of 8th position after finishing in 8th last week. Well, he's inside the top 10. We'll see if he can convert. Jamie McKnight and Travis Hunt, last couple of drivers inside of the top 10. Ken Latta and Scott Mackay just out of the top 10, 11th and 12th. A little bit deeper for Kenny Latta. Some work to do from there. Qualifying's not been his strongest suit this season. Tim Nicol and Dan Hall just outside of the top 10 in 13th and 14th. We'll move back to 15th and 16th where we'll find Greg Sharp and Michael Stewart. And 0.8 of a second off of pole position. Mark Poynton and Chad Lewis out of 17th and 18th. Poynton was inside of the top 10 in terms of points before the drop rounds as well, so he'll be looking to move his way forward. Another driver that was in that mix was David Nash, a long way forward. We'll need to find some time here tonight, 0.9 of a second, nearly a second off of the pole position, and Brad Doble lines up alongside of him. From there, do we get outside of the second marker? No, not quite. Actually, we're just about bang on it. For Michael Whiting, which is a long way back from Michael Whiting, so he's not necessarily the happiest with how his qualifying's gone. Chris Burridge will line up alongside of him. Dave Kirby returns and has hopefully finally gotten out of his Wellingtons here this afternoon. Gary Buckland will line up alongside of him out of 23rd and 24th. Stephen Varga and Darren Goosey are going to be off of 25th and 26th. Stephen Kennedy and Rob Crisdale, 27th and 28th. 29th and 30th is going to be Stewie Hall and Matty Parker. Deeper inside the field for the Nova Sim Sports machines. They're both on row number 15 and lined up together. Darren Crosby and Robbie Griffiths, the first cars outside of your 30. Oh, there you go. It's a thousandth of a second match in terms of times. So what we're hearing is that there is a difference in terms of 10,000th of a second, and iRacing's got Darren Crosby a fraction ahead. Christian Smart and John Gallen. Scott McCune will be hoping we won't be spending too long looking at him from the rear end of the field. Although, I do like that car. That is a very, very pretty... I prefer that compared to the old MSR car, the hypersonic racing cars. So I think that's a little bit of an improvement. 42 laps is going to be our duration here tonight. 75% to be classified in your points. And the refuel capacity, all the way up to that 70% marker there tonight, Dave. 45 seconds or so away from drop of the green flag. Anyone inside that top 10 you got your eyes on?
Great question that I really should have an answer to. Matt Vanderkraan again, surely. When you're lucky, you're lucky.
He's going to be on the outside of row number 1 and looking to probably cover Wayne Walker, although Wayne's not necessarily in the championship fight, so he may just let him go and just look to bank as many points as he possibly can in behind. Righto, we are about 15 seconds or so away from the drop of the green flag and getting ready for our race start. 7th round of the 22nd season of V8 Veterans. On behalf of RaceKraft, on behalf of all the sponsors that make it possible, can we light up a new Vindaloo? The Brits, they love their curry. What about the drivers? What do they think on the rundown of turn number 1? The initial launch from Ross is not good, and he's not been able to get through the gears as well. He's having to block both sides of the road. And Matt Vanderkraan might lead when we get down to turn number 1. Doesn't quite get the nose clear. Yes, he does. A big old send around the outside of turn 1. He just sent it so deep in under the brakes. He'll lead us off as we fire down in towards turn number 2 for the first time tonight. What does the rest of the field look like? Thin field here tonight. Britain's not necessarily the happiest hunting grounds. Michael Stewart's getting mobbed, and around goes someone at the tail of the field. It looks like Jeff Thomas indeed is facing in the wrong direction. Started inside the 10, now well and truly outside of it, and there's somebody else that's gone around as well.
Ken Latter also had a pretty slow getaway. Wayne Walker's jump was electric, but it just had nowhere to go. As Jordan Ross and Matt Vanderkraan continued to battle it out. Looks like David Nash has been through the grass as well. There's some really well manicured hedges and topiaries and whatever around here, but they're not where you want to be looking at when we're racing.
Yeah, certainly, and whilst it might be a picturesque little spot, and indeed there's a lovely little spot as we head down onto the back straight, a little bit of a hill that sits up where you can see the bulk of the racetrack. Benefit of raised banking around a flat racetrack is you should be able to see just about the entirety of the place as they run down the back straightaway. Short on overtaking opportunities here tonight. It'll be difficult getting the job done through Brundle. You've got to be up and against. You'll see these sticks on the left-hand drivers left of the road as they head down through turn 9 here on the left-hand, and the right as they get to turn 10 as well. You've got to use all the track that's necessarily available to you, and then the rear end, the car will start to dance around a lot if you're not careful.
Quick look at Ken Latter. He was down 8 spots, but now he seems to be only down 4, so he's picking it up in that silver and black Camaro. Nearly 1 lap completed. We're on the 3-mile long configuration of this circuit. That's why they call it Snetterton 300, this circuit. 300 decimiles. Is that a unit of measure? Probably not. That's going to be my new thing, though, is just adding metric prefixes to imperial units.
You're going to get me in a world of hurt if you keep that up. We'll see how that goes. But Matt Vanderkraan's certainly got the jump, leads the way, and proving that it's not been a fluke. He's been right at the point end. He's enjoyed it. He's made gains in this new car, and Jordan Ross is really trying to make use of all the track that's available to him. We're going to probably see a new champ. Well, in fact, I would lock us in. We're going to definitely see a new champion at the back end of this season after Scott Gamble's dominance in the last couple of seasons. It's likely to be Jordan Ross. But who will get it done at the back end, and they're both utilising all the track that's available. It's a little bit of a cut of the curb on the right-hand side, but not too much right there. They sweep their way all the way back to driver's right. This is the tricky one, getting the car pitched in and power down, heading onto the back straight whilst conserving tyres. Not easy.
Just looking at a couple of these camera shots, was it buy one, get one free on Armco when they redesigned this racetrack? It's a fair bit of it going on as Matt van der Kraan is being oh so defensive of Jordan Ross at the moment, potentially keeping a few of the other drivers in this fight for the moment. Wayne Walker and Scott Gamble just behind. Troy Stonestreet leading a train in 5th that's a second or so further back.
Yeah, and now starts the field spread. Who's really been able to look after it? And that long right-hander at Coram all the way back before you get to Murray's at the final corner. Not easy. Brad Doble is off the edge of the road, and at the moment not looking like he's moving too far as well, and that's going to be a tow. He's a long way off the racing surface, and penalty update coming through after all of that business. He's got a hardware failure of some description, so he will be done for the day. There'll be no rejoining for him. And Darren Lobb picks up the penalty for, it's a drive-through penalty as well, for the contacts on lap 1.
By all accounts, we stay green flag racing, like you pointed out. The rest of the field's still tightly together. Doble was way off track and right at the cut in the fence as well. So I think that all makes sense. Well, his teammate went backwards. Travis Hunt's gone forward. So I don't know if they've got some voodoo dark magic between Travis Hunt and Jeff Thomas. It's worked well for Travis Hunt, who's up into 7th, and he's the driver just behind this with a lot going on.
Yeah, I just went back and had a quick look at what happened to Brad Doble. Got out of the Nelson, which is the right-hander at the end of the back straight, heading down towards Bomb Hole. And it looks like his whole computer's just basically not been able much further than there because he's gone straight on. There's no braking, really. But drive-through penalty for Lobb. We'll probably get a replay of that lap 1 incident in a few moments involving Jeff Thomas.
Now, it's a very short pit lane, but it's a slow pit lane speed limit here at Snetterton, 55 kilometres an hour, but it's a short little lane. It's not Spa Endurance pits as we look again.
They're just all boxed up just ahead of him, weren't they? And there was no mid-corner speed from Jeff because he was waiting on the car ahead of him to get on the loud pedal. And I guarantee Darren will put his hand up straight away and go, yep, sorry, mate, but damage is already done, really. Darren's not driven a lot of these cars, to be fair, so his racecraft will, you know, the dimensions of the car, isn't it, Dave, whenever you get a new rig, is always something you've got to get used to.
He might have thought the JT was going to go a little bit wider because he had to also stay narrow on the exit of the corner because of another car around the outside of the both of them, whereas Lobb might have thought, oh, I can get underneath this guy because he's about to track out wide, but Jeff Thomas couldn't actually do that by the time they negotiate the exit of the corner. So Lobb served the drive-through just now, come back out in 31st, and just 16 seconds of transit time here at Snetterton. You've got to get cozy as well because there's only 20 pit stalls and we have 35 drivers. So everyone, bar 5, are going to be top and tail.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful little place, this. I love watching Formula Ford. I've said this a numerous times, and we just got the new BMW added to the bottom end of iRacing's bits and pieces. But the Caterham, I love watching Caterham racing from Snetterton. It's always interesting with those semi-slick tyres as well. Could you imagine a supercar on a semi-slick? How much more they'd move around? You reckon they'd make better racing or worse?
Well, the Caterham racing, it's basically like the power to weight ratio of Mazda MX-5s, except with like twice the drag, I think. So that seems to be how that goes. Yeah, you go ring up Dunlop and tell them to make tyres that are even worse.
I will have so many supercars drivers yelling and screaming and shaking fists at me. It would be funny. So, no, I think I'll. It was a wild suggestion, but a suggestion in the course of entertainment.
GT4s on semi-slick R-Comp tyres was awesome.
Until you heard the drivers talk about it, and a lot of the reason why you're talking about the GT4s that were getting around the production car categories.
Yeah, in that one interim year.
Yeah. Talking to all the drivers, they hated it, and one of the reasons there that actually GT4s saw a fall off in that year was because of the semi-slick tyre. If they were on the slick tyres, there actually would have been a fair bit more take up. But it is what it is. Look, suggestions again, like I say, in the aims of entertainment, to give us something to discuss at length across the duration here tonight. Who's been on the move early on is probably the biggest one we'll probably be looking at the moment. There's a number of drivers. Travis Hunt's grabbed 4 spots in the opening couple of laps. Scott Mackay and Dan Hall both 4 and 5 respectively. Gary Buckland is +9 on that opening lap, so he's certainly found a lot of time for the driver participating in over 60s on Monday night. One of the few of that era of drivers still getting around in top speed. Robbie Griffiths and John Gallen, the big winners of the opening laps thus far. What is this circuit, Dave? When I think, whoa, off the track is Stephen Kennedy. Manages to rejoin with only losing a couple little spots. But when I think of you, David Haynes, Snetterton is one of those circuits that I was like, David Haynes and Snetterton go together.
Where do you get that from?
No idea why. It might have was one of the first, maybe it was one of the first commentating gigs that we did together. Might have been here, or the first time I heard your voice, maybe. But it just seems, I don't know. I've always put David Haynes and Snetterton together.
Oh, you should.
Oh, Scott Gamble's just gone around. Something's just happened to the 543 machine from the front of the field. At a 4 spot, will go tumbling down through the order.
Well, he was riding behind Wayne Walker, wasn't he, battling for that 3rd place. He tried to outbrake him a couple of times, particularly into turn 2 on the previous lap, I think, and obviously that hasn't come off.
And that is no longer the usual poker face that we see coming out of him. Chad Lewis has gone around as well, but you can see there's more of a grimace, which means that he is certainly working harder to focus from Gamble. Lewis has gone around, so and it looks like there might have been contact that triggered that for 77. Lap 6 triggers the action, and the replays are coming in. A rare error from Scott Gamble, all on his own. Checked up a little bit, but Chad in hot into the hairpin on his own. Out the other side, looks okay. That is Michael Whiting alongside an 025 machine. Tips it in. He'll be looking for the crisscross. Is he going to nudge at the apex? He does. And they just barely trip over each other.
Is that Whiting redressing? Oh, this is it. Yeah. Just gets a little bit of his rear bumper as he's trying to over under him, and the other driver's trying to cover him off.
So Scott Gamble recognises that he needs to drop in because he was in a pack of cars. He recognises that he can absolutely undercut his way back to the pointy end. So he's going to jump in, take a bunch of fuel on board, and get a pit stop out of the way. Although I did notice that when he jumped into the pit lane, he actually missed his box just a little bit. So he slid through his box. He'll have to back it up, get back into the bay, and get back out the other side. So for Gamble, drops a long way back. Jordan Ross in the middle of all that has managed to find his way past Matt van der Kraan. So change for the race lead.
Yeah, and Wayne Walker's a little bit closer than he once was as well. So I put to you, Matt van der Kraan's lost a tiny bit of time, potentially battling on trying to fend off Jordan Ross.
Looks like sector 1 on this lap, I think it is. Just looking at my timing.
And Scott, if you could just, I don't know, think about Indianapolis and Sebring and VIR when you think of me instead. Thank you.
Can do. You can go right up there in the Indy archives in my head. There you go. And update for Michael Whiting is that after that connection with Chad Lewis, he will be going for a trip down through pit lane and towards the back. And I suppose if you're going to get a drive through, this is one of the shortest drive-throughs of the season. Certainly going to be the one that you want to take it, but overtaking opportunities come at a premium here tonight as well. So cutting your way back through the field is going to be also equally as difficult.
Michael Whiting takes that drive through right away. Matty Parker is looking for an early pit stop. 8 laps into this 42-lap race. Expecting that the starting fuel would take him closer to lap 15 if they wanted to go that way, and Jordan Ross probably wants to. Matt Vanderkrant and Wayne Walker up front probably want to.
Further might have just happened. Okay, so there's a little bit of discussion with Michael Whiting going on at the moment. That he did just try to serve a drive-through, so he was under the understanding that Race Control was issuing a drive-through. He's driven through the pit lane. He just said, hey, I think it might have been the wrong penalty that was applied, but I've served it. So if that's the case, I guarantee Race Control will probably jump on and clear that one out for him. The other thing I was just looking at was Scott Gamble has popped out behind a couple other drivers as we watch on the ball with Travis Hunt at the moment. He's right in and around David Nash and Dave Kirby. Kirby hit the end of lap 4. And he's just let Gamble by, so just looking a little bit at time fall off at the moment. Jordan Ross's opening fastest laps were not supremely quick, but he has fallen off to a 52.6 last time by. Vanderkrant 51.9 fastest to a 53.6 on the most recent lap.
Looking at Travis Hunt, who knows how it feels to chew 5 gum. Knows how it feels to gain a couple of spots so far in this race. Ahead of Luke Ullman, Scott Mackay, some other gainers. But the big losers, of course, sort of Scott Gamble, a few of the others there that were in front of Travis Hunt and have dropped back. So that's where some of the spots have come from, as well as a lightning launch on the opening lap.
We're nearly a quarter of the way through this race already, Dave, with 200 kilometres across 42 laps. And 11 laps is going to put us beyond the quarter distance. That's only 2 laps away. That's how quickly it is going by. Update on the Michael Whiting scenario. Yes, the penalty was served correctly and incorrectly applied, so they've cleared that one up, which is good to see. It's just, it does happen. Handled appropriately would be there was no yelling and screaming. It was just hey, I think there might have been a mistake here. Race Control's looked into it and handled it. I love that. Very easy for the adrenaline to take over in those situations, but it doesn't take over ever. You never hear Michael Whiting flustered.
Further back on the Bentley straight, Dan Hall. It's just ahead of Ken Latta. We can take a peek at both of them. They're both on our SimSpeed Zoom. And you can take a look at Dan Hall's hands, and you can take a look at Ken Latta's furrowed brow.
I don't think his brow knows any other way when he's behind the wheel. I do like Dan's setup. Look, to be fair, both of their setups are certainly an upgrade on mine, so I wouldn't mind either.
I mean, he's got the bezel delete kit, and he's got the button box, and so Dan Hall's got it all going on.
need at some point in the near future to jump in with one of our other split one drivers that's not here tonight, Chris Blanchard.
But Ken Latter's got a towel, so swings and roundabouts.
Hey, I race with a towel in my sim rig as well, to be fair.
It's so versatile.
I don't like the way my sim rig feels on my body, so, you know, I put a towel down, it feels a lot more comfortable.
One of your windows leaking? Towel.
Oh.
Going to the beach? Towel. Sim rig? Towel.
And more drivers starting to make their way through the pit lane. Michael Whiting's just done the first of his stops for the night as well. Pops back out in 33rd, so he's done his drive-through penalty. Now he's done a pit stop as well. Ladder's trying to make ground there. I just wonder whether or not he might go for the undercut this time by... Remember, we're looking at a 12 to 13 lap maximum fuel range, so we're only, you know, end of this lap, end of next lap, or the lap after are your 3 remaining opportunities to get into the pit lane and get out the other side.
That's the corner right there that always does me in, because there's these poles on the inside and you go, where do I actually brake? When does this corner stop? It just keeps going, and you're kind of looking for the 5th of 7 power poles or something. Now, has Robbie Griffiths overcooked that one on the pit entry just now? He has. Like I said, 55 kilometre an hour pit entry here. So easy to end up speeding, and Robbie Griffiths has done that. He's locked him up, slid on his way in, and definitely been doing more than 55 kilometres an hour, which is what? Probably about 35 miles an hour, Your Honour, Governor.
Well, let's go to the pit lane.
There's a few others I thought were really, really close to this. So you look at this, he's at racing pace. He's got someone just up his rear bumper, so you can't really brake until about here. And then, there's where you got to be down to 55, and it was still showing 70 or so on his dash there, and it's given him a big old penalty. And he's sharing his pit stall with 032, which is Scott Mackay.
So, yeah, that's what it looks like, sharing the pit stall with somebody else. And he's going way to the tail end of the field, so I think it might have been a little bit of a penalty. Actually, he's still there taking a penalty, so yeah, he's certainly going to be waiting and waiting a lot longer.
Yeah, because it adds 40 seconds to your stationary time, so he was going to need to take about 30 seconds of fuel or something, plus an extra 40 second stop. That's about right. The reality is that costs you basically half a lap around here for an extra 40 seconds, doesn't it? So he's back to 34th with that mistake, and you got to keep an eye on everyone else as well. Will others make that mistake? Because it's so easy. You can't see that commitment line until it's too late, and you should have been braking 10 metres earlier.
And there's 2 kinks in it. Watch this as well. Yeah, there's an extra little right-left. Oh, sorry, left-right in it as well. Just to add to the equation. 12 laps now complete. And the bulk of the front drivers, so maybe making 13 laps a little bit more of a realistic marker. Was the expected minimum. 13, a little bit of a stretch, but not too hard to make. Wayne Walker's gone earlier than the front couple of drivers, so there's a good chance he might just pop out with the race lead here.
Well, it depends how long he was held for, because he only took 23 seconds of fuel there. Some are taking more like 25 or 30, so it's a short enough first stop from Wayne Walker, so he might get a bit of track position. But then you get to that second stop where Jordan Ross and Matt Vanderkraan could have him again. You're looking at 217 as Wayne Walker there. Well, further up the road is Jordan Ross, race leader. Just going through the bomb hole now.
So you should expect to see Jordan Ross come to pit lane this time. You can see Walker's attacking it, colder tyres, so the front end rotation's not necessarily all that great, and the rear tyres are sliding around a little bit as well, so already starting to heat them up. But for the meantime, have a look at Stewart, Buckland and Sharp, all relatively close together as well, worthwhile keeping an eye on. Here they all come. Jordan Ross, Matt Vanderkranz, Tory Stone Street, all to the lane.
Oh, Buckland just ran up the back of Michael Stewart on pit entry, I think.
Be an interesting one for a little bit of a replay.
It's an exciting pit entry here for sure. And look how little space there is. They're all sharing.
It was Greg Sharp actually got into the back of Gary Buckland.
Okay.
So this will tell the story right here. You can see Sharp just gets closer. He's in hot. Ping pongs off the wall.
Someone's sharing their pit stall with the safety car.
Well, this is one of the few pit lanes as well where there's little risers and humps in it. You can actually just see them behind Gary Buckland there. There's a little lip in the pit lane right where he is.
Well, it's so dramatic here. There's a couple of others I can think of, like Suzuka even, but it's not that dramatic as it is here.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst. A lot of them.
I think Barcelona's got it. There's a few of them. You've kind of got to do that. There's just a subtle angle to your pit lane. If you don't, then you're like some of the other racetracks that people really don't like. Oh gosh, what's the Circuit of the Ozarks? I've heard horrible things about there, where the pit stalls aren't flattened with ridges in between them, and stuff just rolls away.
Scott McCune has gone from the back of the grid to lead a lap, as he's gone a lap longer than everyone else. I do so hope that he's got enough fuel to get back around. Although it was at the back end of the field, so the good news is that he might actually be okay, because all the drama would have been unfolding ahead of him. He may not have used all that much fuel on lap one.
Does he know that the bonus point is for leading a lap, not doing a lap with 1 litre?
He would have led the lap actually too, because somebody's smoking at the far end. Is that the
Kennedy?
safety car?
Stephen Kennedy's got a meatball that he's just picked up very recently. That thing is no good.
He's had another driver with a hardware failure. This will tell us, so just watch this. God, it's getting worse. It's just more and more often I'm seeing that. I saw a boatload of that on Sunday night, by the way. Although to be fair, that was a server with 60 cars, and this is not that same number. But the order's been shaken about a whole bunch.
Really long stop from Jordan Ross. Like I said, Wayne Walker did 23 seconds of fuel. Jordan Ross has done 35. So he's come out here in 6th place. He's behind Scott Mackay, Travis Hunt, Matt Vanderkranz, Troy Stone Street, and Wayne Walker is leading the way. So Jordan Ross taking a whole big drink of fuel at the first stop and totally erased that track position advantage that he had. Now he's got a whole bunch of speed, and if he's just patient in this middle stint, it'll all come back to him as he gets one more of those spots. But it's an odd thing to do, to have all of that track position lead out front and then sort of wipe it away like that, because he pitted after Wayne Walker. He could have seen Walker's time and reacted to it. You know, gone, okay, Walker's taken 23 seconds of fuel. I was a couple seconds up the road from him. I'll take 25, 26. And he's gone and taken 35.
He's going to have an opportunity to grab that track position back, particularly when we're saying that you can get through to about lap 32. But he can probably go longer than that. He can probably get through to lap 34, lap 35, you know, because he's taken the extra fuel and probably filled the car all the way up. The margin, Wayne Walker to Jordan Ross, the difference in pit lane time's about 13 seconds between those two, and the margin's less than 13 seconds. So at the moment, you get the lead back. But the risk is that he might get held up by somebody. The other driver I wanted to keep an eye on was, where did McCune come back out? Because he went very, very long. He's actually popped back out ahead of David Kirby, Stewie Hall, a bunch of drivers that have pit miles before him as well. So he's actually done not too bad.
Decent enough overcut for McCune. And this is a bit more of the traffic that Jordan Ross will eventually catch up to. It's Troy Stone Street, Matt Vanderkraan, Travis Hunt here, second, third and fourth. So all are at a disadvantage to Jordan Ross. But the thing is, if he doesn't get through here cleanly and it lets Wayne Walker build out any kind of advantage.
Well, the other thing, Walker's got to try and make some time up because he will have a lighter, more agile car. He's certainly going to be quick during this phase of the race. We've seen that the last couple of weeks, haven't we? And to be perfectly honest, Walker's probably, at this point in time, jumped Vanderkraan. The difference between them is roughly 4 seconds in terms of pit lane transit time. This margin is not really worth looking at because it's currently going to have Ross pop back out about 3 seconds ahead of Vanderkraan. But the margin I want to keep an eye on is the difference in stop time between Walker and Vanderkraan, because I think he will jump. But the other side of that coin is that Vanderkraan can currently save fuel off of Troy Stone Street, which is just in behind. Yeah.
Yeah, see, there's your Walker versus Vanderkraan thing you're talking about, that the total pit lane time, 4 seconds less for Wayne Walker, so something that he's going to need, more fuel at stop number 2 compared to Matt Vanderkraan. But, yeah, Wayne Walker, 5, almost 6 seconds up the road, still in a net advantage.
It's very, very tight. Well, that little mistake from Vanderkraan is certainly going to help. Got in hot, got onto the marbles. And the marbles is something we haven't necessarily talked a whole lot about yet, David Haynes, but the biggest thing that we're learning with the new debris, or debris model, however you might like to say it, the marbles are such a big thing with the evolution of the game, really, aren't they?
Yeah, so you get some corners where there's sort of, a tight line, narrow line, a slightly wider line, and it's all good there. But once you're really, really, really out wide, the marbles are nasty. And same gravel and other things can get dragged on and accumulate just away from the racing line, where it will punish you once you're just a little bit out of the tracks. So where we are here, at the penultimate corner, some drivers are a little bit wider, some drivers are a little bit tighter. You're all fine so long as you're in the 2/3 of the inside of the racetrack, but once you're out into that, right up against the white line on the very, very, very outside, no grip there, and there'll be no grip on your tyres for a corner or two.
Yeah. And Ken Latta starting to track down Dan Halls. These two will line astern just before the pit lane and stops, and they're a little bit closer afterwards as they're going toe-to-toe, and Paul's going to cover the inside when we get down here to Montreal at turn 2. Closing up between this little group, McKnight's just ahead of them as well. So you've got 2 fishy cars covered by nothing. They are getting closer and closer and closer. McKnight pit at the end of lap 8. These guys pit at the end of lap 12. So McKnight's certainly going to be struggling relative to the other two. And what certainly looks off-board, like it's a relatively easy lap to go for a ride around, maybe it's time for Scott Gamble to take us for a lap in the car. As I can tell you, there is actually quite a lot of wheel work that goes on to navigate a Gen 3 supercar.
I mean, the new infield is so fiddly Take a look. He's got his focus face on.
So, what is the 4.78 kilometers of Snetterton 300 circuit look like? Drive off the final corner. Murray's, as it's known at the mountain, Murray's as it's known here as well. A little bit of a breather, a little bit of a brake, braking right at that white line just before turn number 1. Pitch it in, down to 4th gear, hug the curb. Bounce
That's more than a hug.
Because the car will handle that not too bad, but you've got to be tied in. If you rotate it late and you're not right on that bump, you're never going to get turned in. Braking late, the 2 marker on the boards. Back to 2nd gear, drive out the other side. Very careful, don't light the rear up. Short shift to 3rd. Hug it into the apex down here. 3rd gear, you're going to slide on the exits. You've got to manage your tyres, manage the throttle pressure. A little bit of a short shift to 4th. Use all the spaces, a little bit of the runoff area on the right-hand side. Again, 2 marker down here. Back to 2nd gear. Hug the apex curb for a little bit longer. Straighten out the exit. Build the throttle out the other side as you unwind the wheel. 3rd gear, 4th gear. Tip it now in down here at turn 5. Here's a little bit of the curb on the outside, lots of curb on the inside, but not too much. Any more than what he just used right there, and that's a slowdown penalty. Don't run it wide on the middle of the corner because then you've got to try and turn the car back on itself. It won't want to do that. 3rd gear, carry the corner, use the apex, then use the curbing on the outside once again. 3rd, 4th, again, manage the throttle pressure. You'll slide the rear tyres if you don't. Take a breather, wipe the sweat off your brow because here comes a big braking zone at the back end of the back straight. 2 marker on the right-hand side. There's a road there that you can use all the way over against the sticks on the left. Don't touch the big sausage curb on the right. Use the exit curb on the left once again. 3rd gear, 4th gear. Keep it nice and narrow through the bomb hole. Don't let the car open up as you bounce out the other side of the dip. A little bit of elevation change. The only elevation change on the lap, then it's the long flowing column. Struggle around here. Pick your braking marker. I can't. There's never enough markers in that final corner to pick. Use a little bit of the outside curb once again. Short shift to 3rd. Not try and spin the tyres. I'm at a lap from Snetterton, you can see. Not necessarily too happy with himself as Scott Gamble, but he's cutting his way back through the field. There you go. That's my notes on this place. I wouldn't personally throw those out. Use somebody else's notes. Scott Gamble gives you a good guide video at the end of the week as well.
And when you can see some cranes and stuff on the horizon.
Oh, no.
Scott McCune, no.
Well, the benefit is the Gen 3s have certainly done away with a lot more of Scott McCune's bad luck, but that one's of his own creating. So my apologies, Chris Blanchard is in split 2 of Vets. He was up here last season in split number 1. Blake, make sure you tell him he's getting slower in his old age. Chris will love that. He'll be cacking himself. I'll probably get a slap to the side of the head as a part of that. But, yeah. Chris Blanchard, actually, my grandfather used to work for him, so I do know him at a personal level. Flicking through the webcams of tonight's racing action, we'll get some onboards of Jeff Thomas here in just a few moments. One of the things I do love about the new car is the way that the car moves around. You can really feel it plunge when you get onto the brake pedal as well. You watch the front end of the car as soon as he dives on the anchors. You will really see the front dives in a little bit. Maybe that camera doesn't necessarily show the story. Gets closer to Matty Parker. Parker's going to cover him to the inside. He's going to get a run on him and go around the long way. They're going to squeeze. They're actually going to touch on the run into turn number 1. The outside of turn 1. It's bravery out in the marbles, but he rescues it. Does Jeff Thomas. He had the overlap, he had the run, had to try and do something with it, but it's not easy, and then a wiggle under the braking zone for good measure.
You definitely feel the marbles out there on the painted concrete right out at the exit of the corner. Jeff Thomas got a good run, but around the outside of turn 1 wasn't quite going to work for him there. So I noticed just before Bomb Hole, after the Bentley Straight, you can see some construction equipment, some cranes and all whatnot out there, and that's Hitachi construction machinery Snetterton. So if on your way home from the track, you're like, do you know what I need to be able to lift is 20 tons at a distance 30 metres away, then pop in. It's to the driver's left, just in the braking zone here.
There you go, a bit difficult to spot because you're so focused in this section of the track. That's why I've never seen it before.
Yeah, there you go, there they are.
Right there. Yep. There you go. But yeah, that's 100% why I've never noticed it before. Is because I'm always so focused on not trying to make a mistake at that corner. And speaking of making mistakes, and that is indeed in the right section of the track, is Michael Wannick. He's not having a good night of it here tonight, is he?
Yeah, he was banging doors a little bit up the road as well earlier in this lap, so he's had a fair bit going on. It was in this battle here. Yeah, they'd already banged doors earlier in the lap. Michael Whiting with Darren Crosby, I think. So even before this, ooh.
Well, there's no overlap at that point in time, and the good news is Darren Crosby gets away with it. Oh. It's one of those ones where he was later on the brakes and Crosby was ahead of him, but when you're trying to cut your way back through the field, you got to have overlap before you get down in there, or else you're just not getting the job done. You can't run off the brakes at that section. It's so low grip at the end of the back straightaway as well. Great open wheeler racing, great small car racing, but she's not brilliant for the old touring cars, this Snetterton. But therein lies the challenge. Actually, just watching Darren Lobbs alongside with Stewie Hall at this point in time. Stewie Hall's just made a little bit of a mistake, and he's actually going to yield. And then there's this battle as well, as we're watching from John Gallen's perspective on the back straight. There's a 6-car little battle pack, and just talking about Darren Lobbs got the job done on Stewie Hall. Chris Burridge is having a go at the moment on Stewie Hall as well.
Second stop for Jeff Thomas. So I was thinking, we kind of just settled into our rhythm after the first stops. Is it stop number 2 time already for some? Yeah.
He's effectively going to be doing 20 laps from there, so that is very, very early. Most of the field, when they came down for their first stops, was about 30 laps to go, so you'd be expecting them about 5 laps from now if you were going even splits into lap 27. But Jeff Thomas is going to be one of the few to go very, very early.
I mean, we had critical lap down as lap 19, so go for it.
Something's just happened to David Kirby as well. He's just requested something be looked at. And he's blind, so he's still struggling to try and get that car back together at the moment.
Oh, now he's all the way on.
Is that a hard... That might be a safety car. So there's John Gallen at the moment. Camera side. We were just talking in the comments box that we might cross and try and get a shot at that. That's not the time to cross to him. And David Kirby's trying to drag this car out, but there's front tyres off it. And that is him punching his push-to-talk button to communicate with race control. And as called for the tow, this could be our safety car. If so, Jeff Thomas might... Well, it's going to be a very, very busy pit lane, and with the number of stalls, Jeff Thomas might have pulled a masterstroke.
And then we have it. We've got our safety car. So past the halfway point for the stranded car of David Kirby, the safety car comes out again. A whole heap of drivers had already died for that pit lane. More are going to come in again.
Yeah, look at them as they all dive in. And with 20 stalls, that means that everyone's crammed in right next to each other and indeed on top of each other. You would not want to be a driver in this position. That was actually a safety car sitting in the pit lane waiting to come out. And they looked at it, recognised, she's a bit narrow, guys. We might want to pull off to the right side, give the drivers a little bit more room.
So this is the race leader. That's why we're looking at Wayne Walker for what he does. Probably going to want to pit. In fact, right now is a great opportunity, if anything, for Wayne Walker.
I think Jeff Thomas just picked himself up a black flag. Now, someone was just saying in my ear that it might be due to a pit lane entry-exit infringement, but I think it's actually an off-track that's translated into a slowdown penalty, because he gets it here, but I can tell you, I went to have a look at what he was doing on his outlap, and he actually didn't make the braking zone at the end of the back straight. He went straight on ahead, which would have been a slowdown penalty for cutting the course. And the reason why you just saw him dive on the brakes was he was trying to serve it at the last possible moment, get this in track position, and then serve it. And he didn't get the penalty cleared in time. So I think that's a slowdown penalty failed to be served by Jeff Thomas.
I see what you're trying to do is because he could have gained more by not serving it until he passed pit exit.
Oh, Matt Vanderkrans just about clouded the pit lane exit wall. Did you see how close he was to that? I don't know if we can get a replay of his pit lane exit, but that was... It looked not too bad, but I can guarantee he just missed it. You're going to need a ride on board, I think, in that shot. Watch here. Whoa!
Hey, that sign says 60 kilometres an hour, but iRacing has the pit lane speed limit set at 55.
Yeah. Well, different categories, different speed limits, and they don't necessarily always match up the world over. Bathurst. Sorry, something in my throat.
So this looks like second stop from everyone getting home from here. It's really aligned everyone on strategy. The early safety cars often split everyone on strategy, but a safety car past the halfway point has aligned everyone. Jordan Ross has just squeaked back to the lead of the race. Wayne Walker, Travis Hunt up into third, and Matt Vanderkraan fourth, Troy Stone Street fifth, Scott Mackay sixth, Scott Gamble in 10th, less than 10 seconds away from the race lead. So there's a few drivers like him that get a little bit of time back here. Jamie McKnight's early stop has let him undercut his way to 7th there. Interesting what this safety car does.
Everyone's now on that even strat, but this is going to be the longest run that we're going to have here tonight when we go back to green flag racing. Everyone pitting at the end of lap number 23 means the run to home is going to be 19 laps. Which means it's going to be an interesting old run to the flag because, like we said, longest run, but yeah, there'll be a fair bit in here, I think. We watch and we wait at the moment for the safety car to conclude. There'll be a few drivers who might have just undercut on their strategy just a fraction.
Yeah, who's trundling around in 5th gear right now?
Trying to say as much as it possibly can.
The 4th gear for Jordan Ross. 6th gear for Wayne Walker. It's so silly but good fun.
Stopped compared to the rest of them.
See, unless you've also got their first pit stop time noted down and you add the both together, the most recent pit stop doesn't mean a whole lot. Wayne Walker, obviously, we mentioned short first stop, went for the longer second stop, still in second. Jordan Ross, long first stop, shortest second stop. So that all kind of works out for those two. It checks out.
Do we actually pick up a replay of exactly what happened to David Kirby as well? Because I saw that it looked odd. It might be another failure of some description. Like, it just didn't look like there was contact. It looked like he went off on his own, but it was just so awkward. And we'll grab a quick replay because we will be going back to green flag racing at the end of this lap. Do you have some time though?
So sometimes just like a little hip check right at the start of the braking zone can send you off. And
not playing ball.
It's going to take a bit to try to find this with David Kirby, but I get a sense he just got hip checked a little bit right at the start of the braking zone, which sort of sent him off, and he couldn't slow it how you'd want. We'll take a look. Oh, has he done it?
What is
braked
it
too late.
Left?
I think he's braked too late, and he's turned away from hitting the car in front.
But he turns left, not right. Like, he's normally, if you're going to try and arrest a car, I'm definitely saying, sure, he's broken a fraction late, but then something else has played its part there. It doesn't look normal, you know? So, anyway, either way, David Kirby's done for the day. And other drivers that are done include Michael Whiting, Stephen Kennedy, and Brad Doble, all now out of the server. I think Kennedy, Whiting just recognised things were going backwards and just went, yep, cool, walk away, take a little bit of a break. He might take the second of his drop rounds here tonight. Jordan Ross back to the head of the field, but Wayne Walker's grabbed himself some track position. Who Niels still needs to save some fuel is Travis Hunt among those. We think he might be a touch short. He'll be tight on fuel for sure, but Jordan Ross has control of the field. When is he going to look to go? Out of the apex of the final corner. Doesn't go initially, but then builds it up, winds it up, and gets out the other side. So good get away from him. Wayne Walker's going to try and go with Verticrun's a little bit caught out. An opportunity for him to stand on the podium 2 weeks in a row, but now he's on the back foot and he'll need to do some attacking.
First big stop of the laps here at the hairpin at turn 2. Surely some drivers are going to look to get down the inside, but really no one inside of the top 10. This is the newest part of the racetrack. You can see in the grass where David Kirby went, straight towards where that Marshall post is at. Don't ask me who's been off in the grass, all of those other places, like you're leaving footprints in the snow.
Yeah, and then the run out of the Agostini hairpin as well through this fast and flowing sector. And it's a sort of a slow but flowing sector because it's all the traction zones all the way out of here and then onto the back straight. Again, just so flat. Have a look at what the fans will see in the background of that shot up on the hillside as the cars cut their way through. It would be a phenomenal circuit to be a spectator at because you'd be able to see so much.
Remember those Kiwi fans at Topor that were up the top of some rented, cherry pickers and that. Well, you could go to the top of some other construction equipment down here and get a great view.
Certainly could. It might actually be part of the offerings available. Gamble's got himself a slowdown penalty as he falls through the field, gets alongside of Luke Orman, and finally manages to slot himself back in, and then slips wide as well, still trying to find traction. He is struggling tonight, the 9.5 Sim Racing driver. Finally gets the car pulled up. Orman runs a touch wide out of the final corner, and he gets the spot back. So they've squabbled over that one. Orman's going to lose 3 spots here as Stewart and Poynton both look to capitalise on the error.
And what we've seen every race from these new Gen 3 supercars, the first lap back after the restart is the fastest lap of the race. As they cool off those tyres, they've got so much grip once they're back within the optimal temperature. Someone ran wide out of turn 1 and I didn't catch who it was. They would have lost a whole heap of spots.
Is on the edges of things, and we're just hearing that Darren Crosby might have just picked himself up a black flag for cresting the incident point limit. There's damage on the front left of his car as well, so that might tell us a little bit more about that story. So he'll have a drive through that he'll need to serve within the next couple laps, and the problem is he kind of wants some field spread, but he's at the tail end of the field. There's not really going to be the field spread that he's necessarily looking for. There were 35 cars that took the start of this race. Now there's only 31 left circulating. And I'll back up at the front. Travis Hunt, for me, I think Travis Hunt's short because he's short, but he definitely didn't add as much fuel as some of these other guys at that first stop. Unless he's looking to come back in and grab tyres later on.
Surely not.
No, it just seems wrong, doesn't it, that strategy?
Look like a man who needs to save some fuel. He's so calm. But he's definitely saving some fuel. He's not quite going with your race leaders there, though. A lot of drivers have struggled to go with Jordan Ross's pace this season, no matter the circumstances or the stint. Yep, straighten out the neck a bit.
Yeah, and he's expressive, isn't he?
And Jaw's moving like someone who really, really misses Stereosonic.
He's chewing more than he was at the start of the race, and that says to me he's stressed. Giving little bits away. Because if you weren't... He's chomping more than he would be normally as well. He's always been a gum chewer in the sim. Travis Hunt, ever since I've seen him on the cam. But that certainly was somebody who's trying to figure out what they need to do to get this car home. And home in a strong position. Indeed, strong in home positions further on back. I think that was Buckland getting the job done. Indeed it was on Christian Smart, and Darren Goosey's in amongst this fight as well. So there's a few drivers. This is going to be an angry pack in a few moments. And Goosey just trying to show the nose a bit to Smart. Parker's in this one, Gallen as well.
Smart's one of the drivers who's in line for most positions gained alongside John Gallen.
Oh, Michael Stewart's off and cutting his way through the grass. And he'll give to freebie to a bunch of drivers. I think he's lost, 10, 11 spots now. So, 13 spots lost, dropping out of that one. And Buckland just ran wide out of the final corner. Christian Smart is going to try and get a nose on him. Crosby will finally drop to pit lane to try and get that drive-through penalty served. But they're going to go side by side on the run down to turn number 1. Smart, will he get the car pulled up nice and accurately? Gets it pulled up. Rotates it nicely. Job done for Christian Smart. Buckland tries to come back and enforces the cover. Smart's going to be narrow when they get into the braking zone around here. Who's running wide? Matty Parker sent it in from the stratosphere. Onto the marbles, lights them up. Nearly contact with Gallen. They all get out the other side.
marbles are building up big time, and of course everyone's on their third set of tyres, so if you wear off a little bit at the start of them, they've put another set on, they've put another set on. There's marbles aplenty out there in turn 1 and some of the other places as well, and they're starting to increasingly hit them in their battles here.
The grip levels will continue to degrade. There's a nose shove down the inside from Rob Crisdale. And I bet you any money at the moment that John Gallen is not a big Robert Crisdale fan. He will sign autographs all day, I'm sure, provided he stays in the rearview mirror. But Crisdale thought more of that one. What happened a lap ago to Michael Stewart? A little bit of the grass on the outside of the corner. And we're talking a little bit.
Presumably distracted by some of England's greatest construction equipment, but yeah, you've got the curbing, then you've got a little bit of concrete, and then you've got grass, and it's a decreasing amount of grip as you go, just as you're starting to approach full throttle, feeding the power in on the exit of the corner there. Just got to spin it up.
Run up and a pass down at turn 1. Looks like Scott Gamble's found his way back inside of the top 10 and picks up 9th spot over Dan Hall. The Dan Hall Ken Ladder battle has finally resolved itself in favour of Ken Ladder as well. And Jamie McKnight, after ailing on tyres at the back end of that first run, gets track position because he had it, because he went for the undercut. So that's played itself out very nicely for him.
The Travis Hunt fuel-saving roadshow continues. Matt van der Kraan getting a little bit more aggressive behind. Troy Stonestreet was in a good spot before the safety car came out. And Scott Mackay, Jamie McKnight, Ken Latter to 8th position, but there's quite a few of them lined up behind Travis Hunt here. So if he's still got to hit a magic number, he's going to hope he can get on top of it shortly and be able to race a little bit harder towards the end, because if you're still looking at your fuel number going yikes, yikes, yikes from now until 5 laps to go, 2 laps to go, you're going to be in such a tough spot.
Yeah, and he's going to continue on lifting as well. Just bear with me, guys, as I'm just going to have to do some sound switching over. Apparently, my headset didn't charge last night, which means I'm currently about to run out of headset battery.
Wired headset all the way, except that I accidentally tripped on the cord of mine and it pulled laterally and nearly snapped it in half. So, I don't know, swings and roundabouts on that one too, as we ride on board with Travis Hunt. He's going to have to get a little bit more elbows out defending this, because everyone behind him's just that little bit quicker, and he's got no traction out of turn 2, and Matt van der Kraan will go right on through. The thing the drivers spoke about with this car compared to the previous generation one, if you got your traction wrong out of a corner, you'd be punished all the way down the straight and punished into the next corner, whereas sometimes you get a bit of a slide on and you can gather it up and not be punished in this car. Well, it certainly didn't happen that time there. Travis Hunt lit up the rears and immediately dropped a spot as Matt van der Kraan, who did have drive, popped himself up into a podium position.
Well, just about that, ladies and gents. I'm now back with you. So I've moved to the old monitor sound to get me through until the end of the night, and switched the microphones as well as we're back with you. Luke Allman was inside the top 10. We mentioned that started out at 8th spot, which is where he finished after a long climb last week. Went backwards just a touch this week. And remember, we're on the search for a driver of the day as well. Scott Mackay might be one of the leading contenders, who's having one of his best runs of the season. This is the best he's looked in a very, very long time as well, deep inside the top 10. But I'll tell you what, we've got an opportunity tonight. There's a few drivers joining, or a few people joining us out in the social media chat land. Let us know if there's anyone that's impressed you thus far tonight, or driver of the day.
tell you what, out by the construction equipment, there's a half-decent sculpture as well. There's a few places that iRacing have sort of scanned and added sculptures that you can't actually see from the driver's perspective. So at Hockenheim to Jim Clark, as is Lob having a bit of a go.
You would nearly say a lob down the inside as he gets down there at turn 2. Alongside of Greg Sharp, but Sharp's going to have the inside as we get back to turn 3. You'll have to try and carry the pace. They're going to get a little bit of elbows on. You've got to stay quite tight to the apex, but you can run it the long way round, and that's what Lob's going to do. Gets the drive out the other side. Hasn't quite completed the pass, though. Will be on the outside in the marbles if he goes the long way around down here without a little bit of assistance from Greg Sharp. Backs out of that one. Lives to survive another day. Nash is on the move as well, right onto his gearbox now. Moustache looks to have finally resolved itself for now, but that's just how difficult the overtakes are at Snetterton, because you're going to run in that middle section. The straights are just not quite long enough to nearly complete it.
Yeah, they gave us 50% more Snetterton, and all of it sort of slower and tighter and fiddlier than what the rest of the track is known for, which is kind of flat out down this back straight, flat out down the front straight, some sort of sweeping corners and changes of direction like here. And you're sort of, half throttle the whole way through here. Got to just get out of the power a little bit, roll it through there, and then this next corner, every single car, you're just sort of balancing a little bit of the brake and the throttle, almost just keeping a consistent, steady speed all the way around the long right-hander, trying to be perfectly positioned to really get into the brakes and then switch the direction through the tight final corner to get good traction down the front straight.
That's the big key, isn't it? It's just trying to get everything set up to work and build towards traction, particularly with these new cars, the slide and the rear end, the way they want to yaw. Less downforce, more reliant on mechanical grip, less grip overall, and mistake from Goosey just showing you just how little of a mistake it requires. And he was out in the marbles for a very long time. It's not the first time we've seen him out there as well. So he now comes under a little bit of pressure from Matty Parker, who seems to have looked after the tyres quite well. Don't forget a change for position in third spot as well. So Travis Hunt recognised he wasn't going to manage to hang on to third spot over Matt Vanderkram.
So Vanderkram having got through, still a consistent group of drivers just in behind Travis Hunt at the moment. You can kind of see it on the map there, the exit of the back straight. He's got Troy Stonestreet, Scott Mackay, Jamie McKnight, Ken Latter, and Scott Gamble's come up onto the back of this group as well. So the train ended with Latter earlier. But now Scott Gamble has closed a fair bit of time to get to this group as well. I think that infield extra bit of the lap does help Travis Hunt though, because there's so many little corners there where you can save but not expose yourself to being passed.
The big thing with these cars is you just get off that corner, that first car length of getting off the corner earlier. You just pick up enough of a gap. He's calmed down. He looks a lot more comfortable than when we were looking at him a couple minutes ago. So a lot less stressed than he was. So maybe some of the fuel saving started to go. Adjust to the headset, look up. Well, he's still crawling around inside the cockpit. Not the most comfortable he's ever been. Still some fuel saving work to be done. And how nice is the touch of the JWM Sim Sports logo on the carbon fibre just beneath the rear wing as well.
I learned today that is called a nolder. So that just little flick of the bodywork there that breaks up the low pressure zone on the rear bodywork. It's called a nolder. There you go. What led you to that excited? Because that's actually an interesting discovery. But, well,
I'm
I saw a Ferrari F355 for sale, and I was like, oh, 3.5 litre naturally aspirated V8 with 5 valves per cylinder. Great little car. I was reading about that. It's got a little flick right at the back. and it said that that's called a Nolder.
To be a Mustang-specific design. The Camaros don't seem to have the same shaping in that area of the car. There's some more looks at the Nolder at the rear of Dan Hall's ERT Mustang.
So the first generation Audi TT could have done with it because it had a completely smooth, curved rear end that meant that there was a big low pressure formed over the rear axle at speed. So if you changed lanes on the Autobahn doing 200 k's an hour, you were basically guaranteed to spin out.
So, lesson learned. Early generations of Audi TT don't change lanes aggressively without slowing speed.
They did a recall and they fitted a little wing Nolder thing, but it kind of aesthetically that wasn't their original idea. So there's very, very, very few Audi TTs out there that haven't had that recall done to the rear bodywork. Dan Hall got a bit wide there, so Mark Poynton had a go at him, and now Greg Sharp, David Nash is having a go at him.
I was just watching Scott Gamble head down into that Agostini hairpin at turn 4. David Nash is going to have a look at Greg Sharp, but it's just a look as they get down there. And you can see again, look at the slight differences in line. Nash opts for a straighter exit, trying to get more power down earlier. That'll be a slowdown penalty. That is too much course cut. And there's probably not going to be another deployment of the safety car because somebody left the motor running a touch too long.
Yeah, and the McLaren engine's gone pop on the safety car. So I think by that, can we rule out another safety car?
More than likely.
Oh no!
At this point, with seven laps left to run, Gamble's actually going to have a dive. Gamble's just tagged and turned Ken Ladder. Gamble just had a dive at him at the final corner. And that was just, no, not on at all.
Right, so the final corner, not a massive overtaking opportunity. Smaller cars, you really think about it. Oh, gee, he was close, but I don't think he was close enough.
No, you got to have overlap well before that point. You can just see Ladder's not expecting it, just goes for the apex.
You need to find a way to be alongside before they start braking, because they're both braking, and while they're braking, Ladder's trying to hold the conventional line, and Gamble tries to point more directly to the apex, but it's already in the braking zone when he does it. You'd need to be alongside just a tad earlier.
Well, round number 7 of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans for season number 22. 200 kilometres is in its final quarter of the race. One safety car in the middle. I think we've had a safety car at every round that I've been a part of thus far throughout the championship. So, breaking new ground.
Now, you missed Belle Isle, didn't you?
Yes, I did, but I would have thought
fill you
Belle
in.
Isle was a lock for a safety car, surely.
We had a safety car or two at Belle Isle.
If I was a betting man, I think I'd lose money placing a bet on a safety car at Detroit Belle Isle. And Travis Hahn, not going to make it on fuel, just dived into the lane. So that was too much of a job for him to do. And that means he will have fresh tyres at this point, so he can certainly go for a fastest lap of the race, but he tried too far.
Done the sums wrong on that one. Somehow.
It's a very, very long way wrong. So at the moment, he'll go tumbling through the order. He needed some field spread to certainly happen to help him out, but he will have a very quick, very agile car at the back end, so there could be some fireworks in the offering.
So which one is Jeff Thomas on track? Well, yeah, you can guess, but then Travis Hunt is third to last after that pit stop. Of course, the safety car packed everyone up, and then he's had to go make an extra stop. He's gone to the back of the lot of them.
And look, getting an update on the Gamble versus Ladder incident. And will be a drive-through penalty for Scott Gamble, although, again, sort of expected that one to be coming. There was not enough overlap. It was a late dive, a late show of the nose, and you've got to be aggressive, certainly, with that quality of driver to get the move done, but that was a step too far. So Travis Hunt will get a friend to come back through the field with, albeit I believe Gamble's already in the lane for that drive-through. Get that one done.
Gamble won't have to stop and take 10 seconds of fuel, so I suspect Gamble will probably still be ahead of Travis Hunt.
Well, only going to be 5 more laps left to run in this one. Coming in on 20 kilometres, will be halfway around this lap, will be 20 kilometres to go. So running out of time, running out of racetrack, running out of real estate as Travis Hunt's managed to catch Stewie Hall. It's odd, this one, because I don't know whether or not Stewie Hall actually knows that he's on significantly fresher tyres. There are 14 laps between the pit stop laps of these guys. And Stewie Hall obliges by going in a lot too deep at the hairpin.
That was a psychological Jedi mind trick overtake there, as I'm nowhere near close enough to dive bomb down the inside, but I'll make you think that I might, and now you've braked too late, and I'm just going to go through on the normal line.
Well, the only
look like
votes
World War II surplus out there.
The only votes that we're seeing for Driver of the Day 2 went the way of Travis Hunt, so that's not necessarily going to be something that we can follow through with anymore. At least he tried it. But Dan Hall from Mark Point and Luke Allman, Tim Nicol and Darren Lobb. Lobb's cut his way back through the field from the back end of the field. Christian Smart's nearly plus 20 spots as well, so that might be our Driver of the Day right there.
That's the first one that came to mind for me. Full use of the triple monitors. Christian Smart. That microphone hanging down from the ceiling, he looks like he's ready to lay down some bars. Check 1 2 1 2, fire in the booth style. Dan Hall's under all sorts of pressure in 7th place.
Yep, so now he's going to be assaulted as Poynton gets closer and closer and closer. Lobbs right there in and amongst this one as well. So with a couple laps left to run, there's going to be a giant old stoush. And have a look at the pack, and Lobbs on the headlights wants his presence known. Oh, the guy's just ahead of him, and Poynton's got to try and have a crack. Look at Lobb close up under brakes, though. Poynton's a little bit weak when they get to the end of the back straight. Indeed, he's even going to try and show the nose out the other side. Dan Hall got a great run when they get out there, out at the other side of turn 10 at Nelson, through the bomb hole. And Dan Hall goes from being on the defensive to completely safe, and now it's Poynton that's on the defense.
Darren Lobb and Luke Allman qualified really well, ended up both a little bit back. So that's sort of their aim right now. They're trying to come back through some of this. So they were in behind Mark Poynton. Poynton was in behind Dan Hall. Now they both remain behind Mark Poynton for a sec. 3 to go.
And Lob shows the nose as they get down to the hairpin over here. So he's certainly trying to get aggressive. Little bit of a shimmy in the rear end as they get out of turn number 2. In the meantime, Jordan Ross from Wayne Walker, Matt Vanderkraan quite comfortable for your top 3. 4th, 5th and 6th still squabbling over it as well. So those drivers are not done, but this is where most of the action is going to come in the final 3 laps. And speaking of action, Poynton gets out there and onto the marbles, then lights up the rear tyres. Lob's not going to yield. Oh, there's more drama, and Buckland's going to be elbowed wide. There's contact, by the way, between Poynton and Darren Lobb. Darren Lobb's going to rotate a couple of them. And Poynton's facing in the wrong direction. You just felt that was coming, and it finally did come undone.
I mean, it's the lowest form of humour, but if you didn't take the opportunity to say Poynton backwards, unfortunately, he's been helped around to that. They were all sort of overlapping through this infield stuff, and it goes on again. Michael Stewart, the guy. Plenty happening, and by the looks of things, plenty more to happen.
And he's going to get back into it. This is Buckland. They're all big checking up when they get down the back end. It's 3 wide. It's that. Oh, yep, that was never going to go well. Yep.
Chad Lewis leaves his rear bumper behind.
Well, we went through a few interesting phases right there, and interesting in the most part is the way that Chad Lewis's rear end now looks as well. Darren Lobb's getting a hurry up from David Nash. And I think Darren Lobb's probably got a little bit of a penalty that he'll have to pay at the back end of this one. Second to last circuit of the night, so if there's a drive-through penalty, it's going to convert itself over to a post-race penalty at this point in time. There's not going to be enough time to get it served.
Plenty of radio traffic.
Go ahead.
Oh, just plenty of radio traffic happening after all of that. A bit of contact between a few, and Jordan Ross is about to start the final lap of the race in not too long as well.
Well, we're into the final sector of the penultimate lap of this race, and for Jordan Ross, he's out of the final corner. He's thinking white flag and one more lap left to run. Then we look back off the Nolda of the cars just a touch further back. Down through turn number 1 for the Synergy Sim Racing driver. And Troy Stone Street finds himself at the head of this queue, including Scott Mackay and Johnny Knight later on in the piece. 4th to 6th. Not much covering these guys. Dan Hall a few laps ago was looking a little bit defensive. Now he's in a little bit of his own real estate, but the pack behind him has not stopped racing each other aggressively. Lobb, Nash, Nickel, Sharp, Smart, and Ullman all together, all the way back to 13th spot. When it was looking ominous, well, it got ominous, it exploded, and now back to calm. And there's a few guys in this one that are going to have a go at each other. Smart might be looking to have a go at Greg Sharp ahead of him.
Well, you can see Christian Smart's up 21 positions, and I might be content with that, but doesn't look like Christian Smart is.
Final lap as they get to probably about the midway point of the lap before they shoot out and down the back straight away. overtaking spots probably burn through them all. You need to get a great run onto the back straightaway. Smart does build a fraction of a run, but not quite able to get the drive out. A little bit of a wiggle on the power. One driver who doesn't have to worry about getting the drive out as he makes it nice and clinical into the final turn, out the other side. He's been Mr. Consistent right across the season. He'll take another victory in your RaceKraft V8 Veterans. A trip to England, no problem for Jordan Ross.
Wayne Walker just the 1 second behind him as well, matching his lap times all the way to the end, and Matt van der Kraan ends up on the podium.
Phenomenal battle, that one, for 4th through 6th. They were all, again, another group of drivers matching. Darren Lobb's going to get out the other side for P8. Get the feeling that'll get reversed at the end. David Nash, Tim Nicol, both inside the top 10 following home. Greg Sharp and Christian Smart. And a pass done at the line for Darren Goosey. Gets it done over Ken Latta by 0.07 of a second. Mark Poynton was the car looking at the back end of that one. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get it done. And Travis Hunt tried to have a crack at it from the rear end of the field. Couldn't quite find anyone. He's having fun on the final lap of the race. I think this has turned into a little bit of a drift show.
Chucker skid. And the change of direction.
When you can't get it right on strategy, got to have at least a little bit of fun regardless, and he's certainly done that. This will be a very, very quick tow. He's done. Face says it all. Oh, how about that? He's going to give us a burnout. Well, another race win for Jordan Ross, and chalk that one up. Wayne Walker is going to get home in 2nd. Matt van der Kraan 3rd. Stone Street from Mackay home inside the top 5. Strong result, best of the ERT cars. Jamie McKnight, Dan Hall, Darren Lobb finishes 8th, won't stay there. I'm expecting a post-race penalty to come through for him. David Nash and Tim Nicol, reminder, results are provisional inside of your top 10. Over the leaf in the 11 through 20s is going to be Greg Sharp from Christian Smart, looking at potential driver of the day, which we'll confirm in just a few moments. Luke Orman, Darren Goosey gets home ahead of Ken Latta, gets him at the line. I wonder whether or not Ken might have just run out of fuel at the last end of that. Matty Parker from Scott Gamble, Chris Burridge, Stephen Varka home in 19th, and Gary Buckland home in 20th. Outside of your 20 is going to be Chris Dale from McCune, Robbie Griffiths. Mark Poynton got rotated, unfortunately, by Darren Lobb late on there. It was a good little battle pack, and it was a shame to see it end in that format. John Gallen, 25th as well, also in the wars tonight. Darren Crosby, Michael Stewart, so many times off the circuit late on in the race. Stewie Hall, Chad Lewis, drive-through penalty and got rotated. Travis Hunt missed the strategy, didn't just miss it by a little bit, missed it by a mile. And then finally, Jeff Thomas, the last car home in the lead laps. The two JWM SimSport drivers, 30th and 31st. Not a successful outing. Drivers not finishing and not scoring points here tonight. Didn't make 75% race distance. They actually didn't even make half race distance. Dave Kirby, Michael Whiting, Steve Kennedy, and Brad Doble. All retirements. Doble all the way back on, I believe, lap number 1. Well, that's the results after 42 laps from Snetterton. It was wild, it was busy, and who have we got on standby for our interviews as we go through our podium, hopefully, with a lot of them.
Well, Wayne Walker's going to be the first to stand by. Then Matt van der Kraan comes in.
Indeed he does. Matty van der Kraan, after last week's win, has had a interesting week. You led the field there away in the first stages. Phenomenal start, mate. It looks like you've been working on those ones.
Yeah, I struggled early with getting the start on these, but got the knack of it now. Like, I'm doing it, as you should. And Oh yeah, I was absolutely crapping myself with Jordan on my rear end there for 6 or so laps, but held him off as long as I could. And once he had a little move on me, I made the decision. There was no point in me trying to battle Jordan. I'm just going to lose time. And yeah, not that I gave it to him, but didn't make it hard. Let's put it that way.
Mate, an interesting old race across the duration as well. That safety car coming out a very long way from home. We were a little bit worried about the way that the tyres were certainly going to wear that fall off late, like in that final stint, to be out over 9/10 of a second. It would have been over a second probably at the middle point of the stint, and then the fuel started to come out of these cars as well. That was a phenomenally long final run there. Did you know Travis Hunt had some fuel to save?
Yeah. I was in chat with Vargs and Timmy Nicol, and I said there is no way that Trav can make it home because he had a shorter stop than in the first stop and a shorter stop than in the second. But there's just no way he can do it. So, yeah, I was pretty comfortable that Trav had to do something to make it home.
He wasn't quite able to make it out here, mate. This has been back-to-back podiums for you. New generation of cars really, really working out. Who would you like to give a shout out and a thank you to tonight?
Mate, as always, the league admins and race control, the people that make this stuff happen, as does RaceKraft and the rest of the sponsors. Without those, this league does not happen. You boys, obviously, who do the broadcast and do a magnificent job. And I'll say good day to the old man at home.
Mate, congratulations on the race result, and hello to the old man, Van der Kraan, as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Matty.
Thanks, boys. Cheers.
We'll take one step further forward on the podium here tonight. We'll be talking to Wayne Walker, who's managed to put a result through. Dave, I want to go through a bit of an interview with Wayne Walker.
Yeah, congrats on that. Really found your bite point off the race start, but it's a narrow track and you couldn't get to the race lead there and then, so you decided you'd run long.
Yeah, I got an awesome start. Tried to put it up the inside of Jordan, but he sort of come across a bit. So then, yeah, just held position and was just trying to stay with the top two, and then I had Scott behind me pushing me as well. And then when he spun from behind me, it sort of took the pressure off, so I was just able to concentrate on my lines and everything, and ended up hitting a lap earlier than Jordan and that, and putting a little bit less fuel in, which sort of let me out the front in some clean air, and then the safety car come out, and once everybody pitted, I was still up in second. So yeah, from there it was just trying to hold off everybody behind.
So does the timing of that safety car help everyone who's been a bit short on the first stop, or is it still you settle back to where you would have been because everyone's got to take the amount of fuel they got to take?
Yeah, I think, if you took short in the first stop, it all sort of evens itself out after the second stop's finished. So yeah.
And this track, I mean, in its most classic configuration, it's sort of two long straights joined at either end, but this since 2011 one, it's a bit fiddlier. How's the infield and how are the classic sections?
Yeah, I really like this track. Like from the first sort of laps, I had pretty good lap pace. So, but yeah, the track, the infield, some of that's pretty tight, and got to be really, really gentle off some of the hairpins and that. But yeah, it's overall I like the track.
Awesome, congrats on second place. Great qualifying and then improving on it in the race.
Thank you.
Righto, and we'll take one further step forward to tonight's race winner, chatting to the Synergy Sim Racing driver, the 143 machine of Jordan Ross. And Rossi, Snetterton's a little bit of an old challenging beast here tonight, mate. Keeping her on the straight and narrow, but the biggest issue was just trying to get the car off the line all the way back at the start of 42 laps.
Yeah, mate, my starts suck at the moment, so I need to actually pay some attention to it and figure out why I can't get off the line. But seem to get terrible starts every week, so I don't know what that's about. But anyway, We got the win in the end, and congrats to Wayne Walker. I think it's his first podium, he was just telling me, and he pushed me the whole way, mate. Like, I wanted to open up more of a gap, and he just was on me the whole time.
Yep, certainly was right there. He just would not let you breathe. I mean, first stint, obviously a little bit of track position certainly helped, but Wayne was one of the other guys that got a cracking start. You really had to cover him all the way back. You moved to the right-hand side of the road, because if you hadn't, you would have been 3 wide in the run to turn 1, and you would have been the guy that would have been looking at the two of them going, I've got to get out of here. Yeah,
he got a wicked start. Like I said, I've got to figure that out, because everyone's getting better starts than me. But, mate, his pace, like, in that middle stint, I know I had more fuel on and stuff, but I was watching my times to the leader, and it was pretty steady, so I knew he would pop out, like we would pop out 1-2 or vice versa or whatever after the safety car, and I knew it was going to be a battle to the end with Wayne, so did a good job.
In terms of things at the moment, mate, things are looking more and more likely you might be 1 season, 1 championship win towards the back end of the season. How's the availability over the next 3 weeks to run us all the way to the end of the first season of the Gen 3 and your first season in the V8 Vets?
Yeah, we'll be right. I'll be here. And yeah, mate, I'm really enjoying Vets. I'm really enjoying not have to set the car up, just roll up and drive it. Didn't get many laps in this week, helping the boys with the Pro Series. So hopefully that's got 2 more weeks. So hopefully in the last week I can, really have a big crack and see what we can do.
Well, I've got good news for you. The last 2 tracks are something that's a little bit more known. Phillip Island and Sandown will be rounding out the championship here at the Vets, so you can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Those last couple tracks, something a little bit of a more known identity, mate. But congratulations on the race win. Who would you like to give a thank you to tonight?
Mate, just all you guys for rolling up and doing this, putting on a mega show, as you always do. All the competitors here and all the organisers, and just everyone at Synergy. It's a good place to be at the moment. We're all really enjoying our racing.
Mate, congratulations, and thank you for saying all the kind words as you usually do about the V8 Vets and all the competitors, mate. Always appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Righto, that is going to wrap us up here tonight from Snetterton 300 circuit, which is apparently 3 decimiles. You said a long time ago. 3 more rounds to take us to the conclusion of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans for season number 22. Next week for season 8, where are we headed? We're going to be headed to the Red Bull Ring, the shiny bull in the middle of the circuit, and an opportunity for these cars to try and get power to the ground, fast and flowing, but that means with less downforce, it's also going to be a little bit more of a challenge. It was a nice circuit to set up for the old cars. What's it going to look like in terms of Generation 3 cars? You'll have to join us next Thursday night from 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time as we go racing to set up the final 3 races of the season. And finally, there's been some shuffling in the voting for the Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day. After finding out about Wayne Walker's first ever podium in Split 1 V8 Veterans, well, that kind of decided it. You can't walk past a man who's celebrating, and not only that, but challenged Jordan the whole way through to the line. He spoke about how good it was to see, what a drive it was for Wayne Walker. We might be seeing more of this as the season progresses as well. Expect to see seeing him back here in the future, but for now, celebrate not only his first podium, but a Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day as well. I think that's a fair call, Dave.
Yep. Respect that. He was so close to Jordan Ross right at the end. I mean, Ross didn't have a whole lot to fight for in the final stint, but, after the nearly 15 green flag laps they ran towards the end, Wayne Walker just within 1 second of him. Great race start. Really promising for the coming rounds as well.
Well, as we head off into the sunset on another Thursday night's worth of racing action, like we said, Wayne Walker gets home for his first ever podium. That's a big moment to celebrate and enjoy amongst all of the fellow V8 Veterans drivers. He'll be celebrating alongside all the Accelerate Sim Racing teammates as well. Who we'll be celebrating, though, for the SimSpeed network is all the sponsors that make it possible for the V8 veterans. Of course, the regular title sponsor, RaceKraft Simulations, can't do it without them. But the minor sponsors that make it possible as well. Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, Chubby Buns Burgers, and SudSpeed, your simulation racing gloves. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another V8 Veterans Vindaloo served to you from the wintry hillside right up on that hill in Norfolk, which is apparently one of the only hills that you can find in the area. Hope you witnessed another great night of V8 Veterans racing. We'll see you next week.